Hi, I'm John Storms, and we're going to do the final assembly of the Falcon F16v5 pixel controller. But before we get started, really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and give the video a like. That really helps the algorithm out. Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so now it really starts getting fun. So now we're going to put the controller mounted on its board. We're going to put it in its enclosure. So here's the enclosure we worked on before. And we are going to just slide it in here. Okay. Alrighty. I got a magnetic tipped screwdriver. Kind of important because some of these are a little hard to get in there. So I usually go for the four corners. There's one. Really off. Okay. Now the plate is now mounted inside the enclosure. I paused the video to save everybody from some swearing because I was having a hard time getting the holes to match up, partially because my camera's in the way. And I've just had eye surgery a couple weeks ago. And it's hard to see, and I had a stone in my shoe, and the sun was in my eyes. So there. Okay. So now we'll put the port back on here. And then, of course, he has his own little Cat 5 cable, and I just pop them in just like that. Pull this out. Maybe you can see, but there's some jumpers there. And it is set to DMX. So it's either set to DMX or Lightorama. Lightorama has a different pinout for their RJ45 jacks than regular DMX. And it's an important difference. And then the fan gets mounted on this little white jack right here. Come on. In you go. Nice and gentle. Another wire guide here. See that guy? Has a little plastic back. Right here. Helps keep it out of the way of that fan. That's a little long, so I'm going to pull some of the slack through on this side. Okay. So we are going to fish this end of the power cable through this bladder down here. So I'm going to take off the cap. I'm going to put it over the top of this one, like that. That's important to do. If you don't do that, you're not going to have a good time. Then I'm going to run up. I'm going to try to get two of them through at once. Is that going to work? Three is too much. There we go. Two went. Now I'll get the third one. Run him through. There he is. And then the rest of it up. Put that on just to hold it a little snug. And we get these guys in there. So take this nut now, I tighten the nut up, Gland. And the power cord is all set. Gotta tuck them in over here. Keep those fuses out. All right, so now the last part is to connect up all the pigtails. This part, not so much fun. So, I guess we'll just get started. This is a Phoenix connector. So the way I like to prep these is I like to get them all marked up and ready to go. So when I'm actually putting in the pigtails, they're a lot easier. This is a 4-pin Phoenix connector. On the power distro boards, we use 2-pin, but these come in every variety you can imagine. So anyway, when these are sitting in the controller, the holes are going towards the glands, right, and out of the box. And the top here points inward. So when you look at the pins, this side is positive. So I mark that side with a plus. Then conversely, the pin on the other side is ground, so I mark that with a minus. So plus, minus. Then data, which is the only other one I need to remember, is the pin next to voltage. The pin next to ground, we don't use. Okay. The next thing I do is I loosen up all of the little alligator teeth. Right, so you see in there's that little piece of silver, and when I screw this down, it comes clamping down. And if you have wires in there, it's like in between these jaws, right? So imagine a wire looping through here, and as you compress it, it squishes that wire between the teeth, you know, and makes a really good connection. But when you do that, you want copper in there, not ferrules, not anything else, not tin tips. You want the copper strands. So I come in here with a screwdriver and I loosen them all up. So I'm doing one on the bottom. You see how that tooth is coming down? I want to do that for all of them. And I don't need to do it for this one, but I do need to do it for the bottom one. See that? Just like that. And now I repeat that 15 more times. Here I have a Xconnect pigtail. And if you're looking at the Holiday Coro site, these are their Easy Core 3 or Easy Connect 3. But basically it has 3 18-gauge wires, right? And of course a connector with 3 connectors, which you can't see. Let me get my handy dandy AARP approved magnifying glass, shine the light on there, so you can see that it has 3 connectors. Now, up on top, you can see the notch, okay? So the 2 pins next to the notch are your positive and negative DC, okay? I would have to look at something to remember which is which, but what's important is the third one on the bottom is your data, okay? Then, of course, you have the little rubber gasket here, which helps it be more water resistant. I tend to put on some dielectric grease on the connections to make them a little more waterproof. So anyway, this is how this one comes from one of the manufacturers. And on the end here, you can see that the tins are tipped, right? It's copper, but what they did is they dipped it in solder, right? That way there's no frayed ends. Now, this connector will go into those green Phoenix connectors, which then plugs into my Falcon board, right? Into my pixel controller. And those Phoenix connectors, I feel work better with raw copper, right? Hard to pull out. With the tin connections, it feels like those connections will pull out easier, okay? And this is a dispute. Not everybody agrees with that opinion, okay? Now, when I'm building my controllers, I put female controllers coming out of everything, okay? The beginning of my pixels, and when you buy them from the various manufacturers, the male end tends to be the start of the pixel string. So I do everything female, including my power injection. But can't have these, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the tinned portion, all right? So I'm just going to chop them off, let them fall on the floor, and my wife can come along and clean them up later. Kidding, just kidding. The floor in here hasn't been vacuumed in 3 years. All right, boom, they're gone. Now what I'm going to do is strip off a little bit of each one of these. These are 18 gauge. Pop, about that much. See, this one. So anyway, then, give them little bit of a twist. See? So, all of that. And then they're ready to be screwed down to Phoenix connectors. So that's how I prep these connectors. The other thing I do is, it's not a bad idea to do a test on these. It has happened where they come from the manufacturer wired up wrong. So here is my handy dandy AARP approved multimeter. And what I do is I slide it to this setting here, which is my continuity, right? All that means is when it has a connection, it gives a tone like that. So the data one, I put it into that third hole at the bottom, and data goes with yellow. Ta-da! And I get continuity. Now I go and I check the black and the red and make sure they don't make sound, right? Only sound on the data. Now I move it to one of the others, and this one should be black or red. Now if I was doing the job right, I would look it up to make sure I had the right one, but I'm not. I just want to make sure one of these does it. And it does red. And I touch it on the yellow too, just to make sure it doesn't do it. All right, so now this other one should be black. And it is. Try out the red, try out the yellow. So this looks like it's a good pigtail, right? So now I go and repeat this 15 more times with all the other pigtails, and then the pigtails will be ready. I'm here to give you a tour of my now completed assembly of a Falcon F16v5 and a CG1500 enclosure. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I got an Ethernet cable, and I'm going to plug it in right here with one hand. Almost one hand. There we go. So it plugs in there, and then it goes all the way into here, into one of the two Ethernet ports, and they are both the same. Doesn't matter. My other data port runs along here and plugs into that DMX port. Then on this side, on the right side, I got a chunky power cord that comes in and connects to my my power supply, a Meanwell 350 LRS 12 volt up here. And then over here I have V minus out and V plus out. The V plus out have inline fuses that connect to V1 and V2 right there on the board. Okay. Then, of course, I have all of these Connect X pigtails, right? And I have 5 each going in through 3 holes. And I tried and tried to get 6 to fit on that last one and haven't done it. So port 16 is open here. If I ever need port 16, I can always take this guy out and put in a single cable bladder and run them through there, which I've done before on other controllers. I have a nice fan here, 80 millimeter fan, that connects over to this port right here on the Falcon. Helps keep the board nice and cool. I got a little tailpipe with a vent. Okay, so it keeps airflow. It's not a perfect airflow, but it does pretty good. This is not a watertight box. Certainly not an airtight box, but it does a decent job keeping things out. Ooh, got a little piece of plastic right there. Okay, got that out. On the top here, I have piece of wire so I can hang the controller or mount it. And then on the outside I have my Bud fan cover, which also helps keep water out of the box. And I think that is pretty much it. So let's go ahead and powered up. It powers up fast. Falcon Christmas. And we got the lights for the Ethernet. See that? Okay. But yep, that's it. It's all done. Very proud of it.